Lou. Good afternoon. Glad everyone's in the Christmas spirit this afternoon. At this time, I'd like to call our Suffolk City Council work session to order. Our first item for discussion is an update from the Suffolk Agriculture Advisory Committee. Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Kevin Wine, Interim Director of Planning and Community Development, will provide some opening remarks and also introduce the Chairman of the Agriculture Advisory Committee for us this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. We're excited this evening to present kind of an update on a lot of the discussions that's taken place with our Agricultural Advisory Committee. This is a committee of folks who work in the industry, are active in the industry, live in the rural parts of our city, and they meet quarterly, so they have 4 meetings a year. And this evening they designed a presentation for you all to consider some of the work that they're working on, some of the discussions that they're having on an annual basis. So without further ado, I'll be brief. I wanted to introduce David Boselman, who's the chairman of the Agriculture Advisory Committee, to provide you with a report.
First, I'd like to thank the council and the mayor for letting us have this work session so that we can share a little bit of what's been going on. My name is David Boselman. I am the chairperson, and since we were formed, I don't know, probably 2 years ago, right before the COVID, we've come together and had a lot of conversation about agriculture and where things are in Suffolk and where we go from here. Let's see if this thing. We have a list of our members that are currently serving on there now. We have 2 that have just come on, Mike Falk and Brian Harris, and look forward to working with them. So anyhow, I'm going to move on forward. I'm not going to try to hold y'all up too long. Let's see. All right. First thing we want to talk about is support that the city has already have for us, and support that we would like to see improved upon. The first thing we'd like to talk about is the land use program. We can't emphasize enough at how good this program helps agriculture and the landowners here in the city of Suffolk. We are taxing the land on the use and not what the value would be if it was sold outright, and it helps keep landowners the ability to afford to keep it in agriculture in some shape or form. So we just like to reemphasize how important that is to keeping land use here in the city of Suffolk. Currently, we've had a discussion in the past, and when we started this, about road safety here in Suffolk. As you all know, equipment has gotten bigger and larger. We move up and down these roads, they're smaller. And so we've actually partnered up with the Suffolk Media and Community Relations Department. And one of our committee members, Mr. Mike Griffin, has been working alongside the department on a video. We are using a drone to go out and take some equipment and some vehicles and let them meet on the roads, and we're trying to come up with some safety avenues of what people should do when they meet the equipment, what to be safe. And so we also worry about school buses in the area when we're trying to move up and down the road. Sometimes that's a problem when we end up having to back down these roads. So it is an issue, and it's a video that we're working on, and hopefully maybe this winter or sometime thereafter, we'll be able to present it to City Council and maybe help provide some solutions on the traffic problem sometimes we get into with the farm equipment down the road. One thing where we have asked for funding before is the Peanut Soil and Water Conservation District. Right now, the city of Suffolk is providing $5,000 annually. We would like to see another $7,000 go toward the funding of this program, which would be a total of $12,000. This would be comparable to Alawite County and Surrey County and others that are already funding this program. And this program, and I'm sure you're wondering, well, what is this money used for? Well, it's used to curb stormwater runoff, erosion control, erosion repair. There's a lot of cover cropping comes on the farmland through some of these programs. It's also to manage pollution going into the Chesapeake Bay. And this program is not just for farmers. It is for any citizen in the city of Suffolk to use, and it is available to any citizen. It's also there to assist people who may qualify to get help from federal and or state funds that are available to also help in these programs. And it's not a program that is a regulatory program. A lot of times people are scared to get in programs. It's not a regulatory program. This program is to help navigate the system and help save the environment and control erosion and water problems. So this is why we are asking for a little more funding on here, just to get us comparable with what other counties are doing right now. So we would love for city to look at that. Another avenue here, and I don't know if all this is on the slide or not. Okay. So something else we would like to mention is we would welcome any future agricultural industry support, which I know the city has already been partnering up. Birdsong Peanut is in the process of making some changes and upgrades, and I know the city has been in full support of that. And so any more support that comes along, we would feel gratitude toward that. And we would also like that the Suffolk City Schools promote and educate where that's possible. I know that our women that we have involved in Farm Bureau in the past have gone out and bought books about farming and agriculture and carried them to the schools, and even gone out and read to the children, the small children in the school. And we think that is wonderful, and we appreciate what they do. And we hope that the city will continue to kind of support us in this effort. The schools will support us in this effort. We need to educate these children. Every time we have these young children come along, they need to know where their food and clothing come from. It doesn't just come from the Walmart or grocery store somewhere. It just doesn't appear on the shelf. It has to be raised, food has to be raised on a farm somewhere, and we really like to see the children at least know about this as they're coming along. It's important that we all know where our food and fiber comes from, and it's raised. It just doesn't just appear. So any support the city gives us on any of this is certainly welcome. And also the farmers market, I do want to mention that. A lot of people go to that and carry their goods out there. So this is all a great thing, and we appreciate what you do there. We have talked a lot that we think the city, we would like to see the city start some type of land conservation program. Virginia Beach has had a land conservation program for a long time, and other localities around the state have some, and we would like to see something done here in the city of Suffolk. There are many different programs available. Some have private funds. Some have public funds that go into this. Some programs are considered conservation programs. Some are considered preservation programs. Very similar, but yet there's some slight differences. And there are people out there that can help you get started. They can help you talk about which avenue the city could go, what could be available here. And this would be another incentive for more open space and landowners to have another option to do with their land they may want to put in a conservation program. That way you would keep some forest and open space available here. Sometimes the development rights are sold. The city could buy them or another organization, and then the land would be in a permanent conservation easement. It could still be sold, it just couldn't be developed. So these are avenues, these are things we think the city needs to explore, and we especially think, being that the comprehensive plan is now being studied and drawn up, that this should be incorporated in it. And we would like to see the city council consider putting it in the comprehensive plan. And by the way, if anybody has any questions, just let me know, or I can answer anything I think you may want to know at the end. It's at your discretion. And if I get talking too fast, you can raise your hand and slow me down. Talking about the comprehensive plan. This 2045 comprehensive plan. Mr. Mike Griffin from our Ag Committee is serving on this steering committee. He reports to us on a regular basis when they've had a meeting. And our group has actually been a part of a focus group and had discussion with the people that are doing the plan, and we hope to be updated in the near future. We have expressed our concerns about areas. When you look at the maps, and I'm sure you've all seen the maps, the first thing you see is you look at the different zones, and you'll see all the ag land here in Suffolk are being green. And you'll say, wow, this is open space, this is farmland, this is forest, and this is good for us. This is good. This is ag land. But it's quite deceiving. You get out, ride out in these communities, and you look around, and a lot of this land has been bought, and a lot of houses have been put in certain areas. A lot of farms are gone now. Trees are being cut at the same time. They're going away. So the maps are a little deceiving. It's not quite the ag land there that used to be. Open land and the forest are going away. So in the comprehensive plan, it's being drawn up. I think the council needs to look at it thoroughly to see where we're going in the future. And too many times, I see this happen in a lot of places with a lot of people. Too many times, it looks like we are reacting to things that have happened instead of being proactive in planning the future or what goes on. And I really think, we think on our committee that the comprehensive plan should be looked at thoroughly before it's voted on and approved to make sure it meets all our needs in the situations and that we're going to be proactive in where we go on from here. Let's see. Minor subdivisions. Here's another topic that's come up here recently and more times than not. What we have down here is on my notes here, and of course we talk about this a whole lot too on our Ag Committee. We feel the need to support and strengthen the language to reinforce the intent of the minor subdivision, eliminating potential for misinterpretations that could allow for excessive cuts of the parent tracts. Now, that being said, this is how it was presented to us on our committee. This is an ordinance, I will say this is an ordinance that's been on the books for a while, and it's kind of had a gray area, and it's just been interpreted a couple different ways for a right good while. We were told that the language is to clarify and clear up these gray areas and to reaffirm what the ordinance was wrote for to start with. I have been a member, of course I have farmed all my life. I'm a fourth generation farmer to be here. My sons are the fifth. I've been a part of the Farm Bureau Board for a good number of years now. And many times we have sat on that board and have conversation about this very thing. Piece of land or farm would come up for sale. One of us would go check on it, who was close to it. We'd come to the city. The city would say, hey, look, this is agricultural land. You get 3 cuts and you get a residual. Or maybe there's been 2 cuts off of here, you only got 1 more cut and you got a residual. And okay, we took that at face value. And then we would sit back and the land would either be too high or we would be too slow and it would get bought. Once it was bought, next thing you know, it was cutting 4, 5, 6 pieces out there. Now, how that would happen? And we were always told, well, this could be done and this was a gray area and the city allowed this to be happen. So that farm would be gone, it would be cut, and be sold, and we'd be sitting there scratching our head. And then I come on this committee, same thing happened. We sit down and we have this same discussion, time and time again. How is all this land being bought and cut up and sold? And so we looked at this, we talked with Kevin Wine and Kevin Hughes, and then they come up with this information and this talking about they need to clarify this, and they thought this would maybe clarify some of what we've been seeing in the past. So we looked at it and we talked about it, and we talked about it again, and we wanted to make sure that you could still have some boundary line changes if it was a need. For example, I wanted to make sure that if I bought property next to my property, I could take my boundary line and include that piece in there. And if it was a home already on it that I had to buy the property, that I would be able to still sell this one home there, but yet I could move my boundary line to include what I had just bought. And that's a fair way to look at that. And I said, well, I'm not looking to create any more cuts. I don't want to create it. I'm a person, and a lot of people that I'm in my shoes, there are no gray areas for me. I'm a black and white fellow. Things are what they are. We have laws that we are given. We have ordinances we go by. And I've never understood why we had gray areas. So, that being said, we came to the decision that we thought, yes, we're going to support the need to strengthen this language and enforce the ordinances as they already are written. I don't understand why it's even being brought up and being controversy. This is what they were wrote for. This is why they were wrote. This is one of my favorite subjects. This is one of my favorite subjects. And I'm going to try not to go too lengthy here, because I could talk about this for a long time. And if anybody would like to talk with me about this at a later date, I would be glad to meet with them. But so far as the Agricultural Committee is concerned, we do not support the use of solar projects taking prime productive farmland. I got 3 words for taking farmland in for solar panels. This is nuts. It's a way for a landowner to make money. It is good money. Don't get me wrong. They pay them good money. But that's all it's about. For me, that's not enough. My grandfather farmed, my father farmed, my great-grandfather farmed, I farmed. We live and breathe agriculture. This is what makes me happy in life. This is what makes a lot of farmers happy in life, is to go out there and work that land, plant that seed, and raise that crop. When you put solar panels on a farm, you are pretty much condemning that farm right there. They claim that you can put that land back in production. And you can put some of it back in production. I doubt that it ever will be put back in production. We are taking land, and I will say this. Let me back up. In this corner of the state of Virginia, we are in the southeast region. This is some of the most productive farmland in the state of Virginia. And About 2 weeks ago, I would say Governor Youngkin, he met with the Virginia Farm Bureau, and he got on there and he got up there and he touted. This was agriculture in the state of Virginia had $105 billion Lord, I've done lost my word, $105 billion impact on the state of Virginia to the economy. It created almost 500,000 jobs. So it is a big deal in the state of Virginia. And this is some of the most productive row crop land there is in Virginia. And when you take that kind of farmland out of production to put a system on that's supposed to be green, and you stop raising crops that are providing you food to eat, which we all need, and you stop providing fiber, what we use for clothes. On top of that, you have a crops out there, they taking in carbon dioxide, which is cleaning the air, and then they give off oxygen, which we all need to breathe again and survive. And a matter of fact, 1 acre of green growing corn will produce 40% more oxygen than 1 acre in the rainforest. Sure will. Sure will. So I have a hard time, and if you want to put solar panels out here on your house, in your yard, you want to put it out there for your need, you want to put it on the rooftop of this building, you want to put it on the rooftops of Amazon, you want to put it on some marginal land that's not really good for cropping or trees. Of course, trees is a great environmental thing we have too. They do a lot to clean the air. So a lot of solar panels now are going up on forest. And I know y'all don't want to hear all about it, but I keep finding these interesting facts. There was a huge 6,000 acre facility just put up in Spotsylvania County. They cleared 6,000 acres of forest, put this facility on there. They had to put some rock roads through there and whatnot. And now they're having problems. The land used to be considered around these panels permeable. In other words, when the rain came, come down, it would go in, the ground had grass growing around these panels, the ground would take it up, and the rain would dissipate, wouldn't have no problem, everything was lovely. Now they've had a problem with that rain creating erosion and runoff. Problem is, and this is what the study found there, they had to go back and put many multiple retainment ponds to stop this flow of water. Now they are saying that these panels, in the process of putting them down, the land is getting too compacted. And then they're putting down these poles and everything else. So now they're rethinking this to say that this land has become impermeable. So we're getting runoff from this now. Well, we don't need that. We don't need all this running off causing more problems. So as going forward, as these things keep going, it looks like to me we're having more and more problems here. So anyway, solar panels have their place. I'm not going to dispute that. The problem I have is when you're taking in something that is of value, providing you food, fiber, oxygen, cleaning your atmosphere, and it's truly green. Why are we taking it in? So I've got a picture I have got to show you right here. This is in my yard. My wife come to me one day this summer, and she said, hey, I want to show you what true green energy looks like. She has hung her clothes on her line. The sun is drying them. The air's blowing. There's a cotton field in front of my house, a cotton field in the side of my house, and everything is green and lush. It's providing me with good, clean air to breathe. This is what green energy should look like. Not somewhere where we have to go strip mine to get the metals and smelt them down using fossil fuels, build these things that include toxic metals. We put them in, we use poles that are galvanized, and galvanization, and by the way, is a process. And zinc is in these poles, and zinc leaches into the ground. When zinc leaches in the ground, you go to plant a crop again. Peanuts are pretty intolerant of the zinc. Cotton is too. On my farm, we put up a barn about 10 years ago with galvanized tin. You can go right to the edge of that barn. Cotton is as pretty as you want to see. Next 2 rows over past this shelter, the cotton is stunted. Some of it died. And it's coming from the zinc that's leaching off that galvanized, off that tin and running into my field. So anyway, that's what I think about solar panels. I am not a big fan of them taking farmland, and neither is this committee. Although we do think they have a place, but we certainly do not think that they are quite as green as we are led to believe. Matter of fact, I got one more comment on that. I just saw yesterday morning on Channel 10, it was a homeowner somewhere here in the area. You may have seen it too, but he was talking about he just put many thousands of dollars into putting those things on his home, and now he is not getting what he's supposed to be getting out of them. He says is the savings are not there. He is very upset about it, and he is complaining and trying to have something done about it. And to go along with that, I will mention, I went back and did a little history here. From November the 1st till right now, today, let me go back and look. November had 4 days it rained, 11 days of sun, and 15 days clouds. December has had 3 rainy days, 7 sunny, and 11 cloudy. That's 18 sunny days out of 51. So we were actually had 35% is the amount, 35% of the days in that time period we were actually getting any sun to produce energy. So that could be part of the problem with some of these homeowners not getting what they think they should out of it. So anyway, that's my take on solar panels. It is a profitable way for people to put them on their farms, but what are we actually doing? For some reason, I'm one of those people that looks beyond that. I'm not all about money and never have been. I've got one more thing here I really need to talk about, and this is near and dear to my heart. Well, wait a minute, let me show you this. I'm about to lose this one. I've done skipped something here somewhere. This picture here was probably supposed to be over here at the minor subdivision page. This is an example of what we're talking about. Maybe we need to be looking at some of the some more into some of the things that are going on out here in the community. On the left there, we have like a major subdivision where we have sidewalks, curbage, pipe drainage, public water, public sewer, wide enough road here for the school buses to get down. This is a nice neighborhood here, and it's on a major, I guess it's we call it a major subdivision. Over here on the right, this is where land has been bought and divided up, sold off. There's no sidewalks, no curb, no drainage pipe, just regular well water, regular sewage. And if you go to looking at it, it looks very similar to a major subdivision now. So that's something that we think y'all need to probably look at and study that a little bit further. But that has come to our attention. There's been 1 or 2 of our committee members has brought that up. It looks like we're doing all kinds of subdivisions all in the countryside here, but nobody has to pay for the extras that's going into them. This last thing I want to talk about, and I hope I haven't rushed through this too fast. Went back and we've done a little bit of research. So we took the last 20 years, and I don't want to throw too many figures out there at one time, but I do think it is important. We went back and looked at the last 20 years, and we looked and went to the FSA office, went to the USDA website, and we got some facts and figures. This is a bar graph here showing us the loss of farmland in that 20-year period. It is the actual acres that are being row cropped in the city of Suffolk. This would include peanuts, cotton, corn, soybeans, barley, and grain sorghum. In 2002, we started out at 50,600 acres in production. As of 2022, there were 42,533 acres in production. That is a loss of 8,067 acres, or 16% of your total acreage. That is a yearly loss of 0.8% over a 20-year period. We took that, and then we did a 10-year period, 2012 through 2022. Suffolk experienced a loss of 4,876 acres, or 10.3% of its acres in the start of 2002. That's a yearly rate of 1.03%. We then took a look at the 5-year period of 2017 through 2022. Suffolk lost 2,700 acres. That's a 6% loss of where we started at a yearly rate of 1.2%. Then I got to looking and I said, all right, well, let's just look at 2021 and 2022. 2021, we lost 1,721 acres in 1 year. That is a yearly loss percentage rate of 3.8% in 1 year. We went in 2022, we lost 958 acres in 1 year. That is a 2.2% yearly loss. And this seems to be accelerating from year to year. Talking with Melanie at the FSA office, she has a lot of land where houses have been built or land has been come out for various reasons, and so there will be some more changes the upcoming year. So I know they're still working on even getting that land out of production now. My point is, if we take and look at the last 2 years and you average it, that's a 3% loss in 2 years. And it looks like it's accelerating as we go forward. If you do the math at the current loss ratio, row crop farmland will disappear in just over 30 years. Won't hardly be anything left here. And this is what we've been facing. We knew this has been happening for a long time. So where do we go from here? What do we do? What do the citizens of Suffolk want? The official seal for the city of Suffolk, if you look at it, it has all kinds of things on it. It has a tractor in there. And according to our city website, the tractor represents our agriculture. The helmet represents our history. The fish for recreation. The gears for industry. And the peanut, which is right in the middle of our seal, it signifies the importance of the crop. And yes, the crops are important. Peanuts are important here. We know that. The city just made a grant to Birdsong Peanut. We have a Modest Industries. Their main office is here. This is where they build pretty much all of their peanut combines. We have peanut farmers here. We have chemical people here, fertilizer people supporting us. We have people that weld, and we have supplies and nuts, bolts, anything we need, oxygen, acetylene. So we are an industry here that is valuable, time and time again. A lot of times, agriculture does not get the gratification that a lot of other businesses get, because we are here, we're in the background. A lot of people through the years think farmers, say the old dirt farmer, they don't know nothing. But those days are long gone. We're not walking behind mules no more. We're dealing with very expensive equipment. A lot of it's computerized, GPS, satellite, tell us where we're going, guide that tractor. Finances have gotten outrageous. These equipment dealers and equipment has gotten outrageous. We have to be planners. We have to plan what we're going to do forward. We're already planning what we're going to do next year. We've been planning that. We've got to know in advance what we're going to do. We got to come up with financial backing. What are we going to grow to make money? We got to come up with the supplies we need because of the supply chain is so broken right now. We have to buy equipment. We have to work on equipment. We have to fight the weather, the bugs, the weeds. It's a lot more to it than most people. And then we've got to see if we can't go out here and sell this crop for what it's worth. And we have no control over that. We can't ask what we want. We have to be at the mercy of somebody else, Chicago Board of Trade or a group in New York on the stock exchange. It's very difficult. And now we been battling the loss of farmland. How are we going to make a living if we keep selling it off? My family has been here a long time. This is what we do. We love agriculture. We love to plant that seed and raise that crop and harvest it. I fear for my sons who are the 5th generation and my grandchildren that are here now. And we are all who are involved in farming here worried about where we go from here. For me, it's just not all about the money. It's a legacy. And at this moment in time, this city council is the caretaker of the lands of this Suffolk, here in Suffolk. What will you leave as your legacy? Will it be to build up houses, warehouses, businesses, asphalt, concrete, roads? Or will you look to the future, save some forests, farmland, and open space? Will our children and grandchildren be able to have fresh air and a clean environment, open space to see the beauty of what God has created and give us? We are here to oversee this land. We've been entrusted to look after this land, and it makes us stewards. We must have the foresight to make decisions that will impact this landscape of this city forever. This city is in charge of that right now, this council. So we ask that you look forward, and we've got to make that decision. This council's got to make that decision. We were told that the council and the city wants agriculture here to remain viable. We want to look and preserve our agricultural heritage. Well, we can't keep going like we're going and do any of that. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Bosselman. Mr. Bosselman, would you like to stay up here for a little bit in case we had any questions or comments?
Yeah,
I think you
I
probably
can.
got a few coming. Council, any questions or comments for Mr. Bosselman? Councilperson Butler Barlow?
I don't have a question, but could I ask the members of the Ag Advisory Committee that are in the room to please stand up? Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that we had almost the whole group in the house. So.
Council, any other questions or comments? Councilman Johnson?
I just simply want to make the comment that I'm so pleased that we presently have an Ag Committee, and it's been a long time developing, and I know it seems like to all of you guys sometimes it's a slow process. Governing is a slow process, but what you are doing now is setting a floor plan for all of us to hopefully recognize how vital it is that we maintain what agriculture we can maintain in this city for the future of the people that live here. And I, for one, applaud you. Don't feel distressed too often. It's tough. It's tough. Change is tough. But I think the eyes of the city are open, and I think that I think this council is behind the fact that we really want our city to be something special, and ag is such an important part of it. And it is a struggle. So keep on. All I want to do is applaud you and thank you. And thank you for being open. We're open-minded about everything, but we're really open-minded about what you present to us, and it's so valuable to have these meetings, discuss the future, figure out how we can make our city a better place. I simply applaud you. Thank you, Mr. Bosselman.
Thank you. And I would like to say this. We don't always have to agree. Fortunately, we live in a land where I can have my opinion, you can have your opinion, but we can discuss it. And somewhere in the middle, find common ground.
Council, any other questions or comments? Mr. Bosman, thank you very much for your presentation. I want to thank everyone who has volunteered to be on the Agricultural Advisory Committee. It was a good start. It's a good way for us to garner information. I think all farmers, I mean, you have a special passion for what you do. It's not a occupation. It's a way of life. And
It's
it
a
really is
lifestyle.
a way of life. It's different than any other job that I can think of. And I can see through the passion that you're speaking with, and I see heads nodding in the background, that there is always, I mean, there's a serious concern for the amount of agricultural space, or I should say landmass, that we have within the city. Now, I did notice that one of the graphs that you were showing had to do with active farmland,
Yes, sir.
which means there's a significant amount of land that is zoned agriculture at this particular juncture that
Yes,
is
sir.
not being farmed for one reason or another.
Yes, sir.
Because I believe when I looked at some stats, I went back to the last comprehensive plan, and the difference between zoning as far as agriculture had been reduced by less than 5%. So that's a pretty big swing. In other words, there's a lot of land out there that is not actively being farmed.
Yes, I have another, and I have printouts, if anybody would like to see them, talking about, this was the active cropland in the city of Suffolk. I have another printout showing, it's like you said, the total amount of, it's land where you have not only cropland, you have pasture, you have strawberry patch here, you have this garden here, you got a little patch of sweet corn over here. You may even also have some land in CRP. And then you've got some areas where there have been trees replanted on there. Maybe this land was wetlands and they've gone in there and traded it out for wetlands and planted trees in there. So it's more land there, but this is, like I said, it's every little nook and piece here. Now, I could not figure out exactly how many acres of forest were on here in the city of Suffolk, and we kind of requested that land from the assessor's office, and we never really got that back. So I really couldn't tell you about the forest land. But if you go back and look at the overall cropland that is reported to the FSA office, everything is reported to them. So they know. But if you go back and look at the other figures on the other one, we still had that same 3% loss in 21 and 22.
You know, the reason I asked is when I look at one number versus the other, maybe what we could also look at is how do we encourage the use of the land that is available? How can we incentivize it, if you will, from the city standpoint?
Correct.
To have the ultimate goal being whatever available land there is to farm, there's somebody actively farming it. I'm not saying we'd ever get there, but from a city standpoint, maybe that's something that we could look at too. What can we do? And you alluded to some of it in regards to the conservation and land abatement and that sort of thing, which we already have in place, but maybe, we could look at that also to see how we may be able to incentivize that even more to encourage the investment in agriculture. And I think part of it is most of us don't fully understand or appreciate the significant impact that agriculture has in our city, not only historically and culturally, but also from a fiscal standpoint. It is a huge impact on our city. So once again, I want to thank everyone for their participation, and believe me, I think everybody here is on the same page. I don't think anyone would hesitate to support agriculture or recognize the importance that it has in our city. So once again, thank you very much.
We thank you for listening, and we just felt it was an important time, and this is something we'd like to see done on an annual basis, is to give a report on things we've been meeting on, what we feel is important and where agriculture is headed. I don't think a lot of people are aware as to how much land is actually being lost here in the city of Suffolk. At what rate? And so we wanted to make sure we brought that up and were aware of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, our next topic for discussion during our work session is the Freedom Flag. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. With us today, we have Mr. John Riley, President of the Freedom Flag Foundation, along with Mr. Tiny Andrews, who's the Vice Chair of our Peanut Fest. And we also have the privilege of having Mr. Clarence Singleton, the head of a Heart of a Hero, excuse me, Clarence. But they're going to be doing the presentation on the Freedom Flag.
Mr. Mayor, distinguished councilmen and women, city manager and staff, I'm going to be very brief. I wanted to take a minute to thank Mr. Goldberg for spearheading bringing us before the council, and to offer my sincere thanks to the manager, his staff, the police department, fire department, sheriff's department, and the media department for the city of Suffolk for our help in the procession that we did for the Peanut Fest, taking in the 9/11 Museum, of which Councilman Foster was fortunate enough to ride on the lead vehicle, and the media department under Jennifer Moore. If you all have not seen the video that they produced for that, you should get a copy of it and see it. It was excellent. As stated by a member of the Tunnel to Towers Executive Board from New York, because we forwarded it to them. So that's not really why I'm here. I'm here to introduce John Riley of the Freedom Flag Foundation. We met in September through mutual friends and were afforded the opportunity to bring a beam from the North Tower of the World Trade Center from the 92nd floor that belongs to their organization, and we had it on display at the Peanut Fest. Again, that's really not why we're here, but we've got something very important to bring, and John knows it in and out, so I'm going to turn it over to John Riley.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tiny. Mr. Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city staff, thank you for having us here today. I am John Riley. I live in Richmond. I'm a Virginian and grew up outside of Richmond. Good friends with the Melito family. And Richard Melito, who grew up here in Suffolk, is really sort of the point of why I'm here. But I'm going to tell you the Freedom Flag story, the 9/11 Freedom Flag, how Richard created it, how proud he is as a native of Suffolk and of Virginia to be where it is and where we are with this flag as a 9/11 symbol of remembrance. So I've got a lot of pictures I'm going to cycle through quickly. Talking about 9/11 right before Christmas, hard to hit the right tone. But I'll just say today's a dark day. Why is today a dark day? It's winter solstice, darkest, longest night of the year. And we're 2 weeks removed from the 81st anniversary of Pearl Harbor. So when I grew up, I was kind of a World War II history buff, and Pearl Harbor was the day of infamy until 9/11. So the Freedom Flag Foundation we're a nonprofit, all volunteers. Clarence is one of our board members here with me. He's an American hero. I hope you'll spend a few minutes with us afterwards and get to meet him if you have not. The goal of the Freedom Flag Foundation is to establish this flag as a national symbol of remembrance for 9/11. There's only one other flag besides the U.S. flag that's on a national level that we're shooting for, and that's the POW MIA flag that many of you are probably familiar with. And we like to establish a tradition on Patriot Day, every 9/11, where Americans, and especially the next generation of school children around the country, are raising this flag in remembrance of 9/11. The purpose of this work session is to give you a quick overview, tell you about Richard Melito if you don't know him or his family, and how unique of an individual he is, and I think how proud Suffolk should be of him, and to suggest a proposal for the city's consideration. This is the Freedom Flag. It is Virginia's official flag of remembrance for 9/11. What is unique about this? It is the only flag of remembrance in the country for 9/11 that's codified. It's in our state code. So I grew up here learning about the cardinal is our state bird, the dogwood is our state flower. We now have a state symbol of remembrance for 9/11. And I believe we all remember exactly where we were when the news unfolded that bright blue sky, clear morning, Tuesday, September 11th. When the first tower was hit, we hoped and prayed that it was just a mistake, an accident. When the second tower was hit, I think all of us came to the same conclusion at the same time, that the nation was under attack. The third plane went down at the Pentagon, and that is in Arlington County, Virginia. So this flag and this story is Virginia history. A lot of people think it's D.C. And in Richmond, where the Federal Reserve is, we were starting to get pretty panicky. I don't know about down this way. Obviously, with the military, I'm sure they were already on alert, if not scrambling. And when the fourth plane went down in Shanksville, we later found out that's when America started to fight back. Let's roll. The folks on that plane took over and took charge, and America was taking its first step forward. When the towers fell, I think that was almost like something else dying as we all watched. I'm here because I lost a best friend on 9/11, Doug Ketchum. This is the survivor's bracelet that Doug's mom gave me. He was one of my best friends growing up, and I found out later that day that he was at the top of Tower 1 working for Cantor Fitzgerald. So if you know that name, it's because that firm lost over 650 employees, including Doug, because they were trapped above the first impact. So in a matter of an hour and a half, we said, everything has changed. America's changed, patriotism surged, and we made a promise as a nation to never forget. So perspective, 2,977 lives were lost on that day. It's the deadliest terror attack ever. That's one of our banners that we carry around with every single name on it. It was the highest single-day death toll on U.S. soil since the Civil War. A lot of people don't realize 90 different nations plus the U.S. lost a citizen on 9/11. It was a global event. Remember the global outpouring of support. These are the flags of the 90 nations that lost citizens on that day. Richard Melito grew up here in Suffolk near Hall Place. His mom taught school for a number of years and impressed on him how hard it was to teach history, especially complicated history. He graduated from Suffolk High School in 1971. His older brother, by luck of the draw, if you want to call it luck, served in Vietnam, was drafted. Clarence, one of our board members, also served, U.S. Marine Corps. Later, his brother served for Virginia State Police. Richard did not get drafted. Richard went on to start a restaurant business in Richmond. 40 plus years. If you are a small business owner, you know how hard it is to survive as a small business owner, but he's done it for 40 plus years, Melito's Restaurant. And on 9/11, he watched, like most of us, and was thinking of his brother who had served and come back from Vietnam and was told it's not going to be a good idea for you to wear your military uniform home from the airport. And he was thinking of his mother about the complexity of teaching history. And he was wondering what he as an American could do to remember, to keep the promise, to never forget. So Richard from Suffolk, working in Richmond, drew a sketch on a napkin, on a bar napkin, and he said, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make sure we remember. I don't want to see what happened to my brother happen, where we forgot about our veterans. And he drew the freedom flag. Freedom isn't free. That's why he called it the freedom flag. And I'll start at the top right with the meaning. The top red stripe is for the bloodshed at the Pentagon here in Virginia and those who perished on Flight 77. The two broad red stripes represent the Twin Towers. The bottom red stripe represents Shanksville. So you got 4 red stripes for the bloodshed of the 4 planes. The 3 white stripes represent our first responders, police, fire, and rescue who ran to danger. Clarence is also retired FDNY. He responded and was nearly killed in the Tower 1 collapse. The white star is for all who lived and died for freedom, for our military who responded heroically. Richard's thinking of his brother in that same concept. The Pentagon in Virginia, the armed protection of our freedom, is represented by the 5 white bars. And the blue field is all of us who watched and wanted to help, all of us Americans united for freedom, perhaps unlike any other time in our nation, and at least in my lifetime. And he sketched it on a napkin. He said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on the wall of my restaurant, and when my patrons come in, I'm going to tell them what it means. And when they say, why'd you do that? It's because I'm an American, and this is my way of remembering. And something crazy happened. This article was from December 2001, about 3 months later. Richard had the flag on the wall. This is, mind you, way before social media and the internet. The flag was going viral. It was in the newspaper. It was word of mouth. It was on the radio. And the next thing you know, over 1,000 schools in Virginia are flying the freedom flag on 9/11, on Patriot Day. Recall that in the years after 9/11, it was very difficult to teach the subject, especially in grade school, because it was still so raw. But this flag was a simple way to remember, to commemorate the heroes, the victims, the first responders. It flew at Shanksville at the temporary memorial, where the permanent Flight 93 memorial is today. It became so prominent that then Governor Warner, now Senator Warner, issued a state proclamation declaring it our official flag of remembrance in 2003. So then people said, well, how do we display this? How do we fly this flag? So we have a protocol, and for all the veterans, especially in this audience, very specifically, we call out always under the U.S. flag and always with respect to the U.S. flag first. Here's a couple examples. So I've got pictures like these from over 30 states where the freedom flag's been used in classrooms, where first responders are using it on Patriot Day to remember as sort of a symbol of remembrance. And in the 2012, 13, 14 timeframe, we realized school children weren't remembering 9/11. Now they had to be taught 9/11. So we started introducing the flag a little bit more into schools at the classroom level and assemblies. And we put the flag in the hands of students. And we obtained pieces of Tower 1 steel. It's an amazing story, but we have pieces just like this in over 30 states and in schools in Virginia where students can touch history. And to tell the story, it takes a little while, like I'm telling you, to tell the story to people out of state. We wrote a simple children's story. It's an illustrated book about this story. So with the flag, the steel, and the book, this group of volunteers based in Richmond, we're trying to make this the national symbol of remembrance by sending these items around the country to participating schools and teachers, fire departments, fire stations. It's common to see these at stair climbs each 9/11. JROTC, they're big into flag protocol and remembering 9/11. This is a JROTC Marine Corps unit near Richmond. State Police, I mentioned Richard's brother. State Police responded among the first responders rushing into the Pentagon and stood guard around the Pentagon for about a year and a half after 9/11. Scouting is another great example. I'm an Eagle Scout. Richard Melito was in scouting. His brother's an Eagle Scout, and that's actually Richard on the far left there. So scouting does a lot with the flags. So there's a lot of aspects where this touches civic culture and just our everyday life. Here's some more pictures. Fairfax County, it's the largest school division in Virginia, the 10th largest in the country. Fairfax County bought a freedom flag for every single school in 2019, 220 freedom flags. Here's one honoring first responders. So to become a national symbol, we said we really need to be in the state code. So in 2018, with this groundswell of support, we introduced bipartisan legislation, with the help of Glenn Sturdivant and Lamont Bagby. Bipartisan because that's how Patriot Day was established in Congress. Bipartisan because it's all America. This is not political. And it's hard to get anything done unanimously these days, but this was approved by the General Assembly 97-0. Signed by the governor. And we continue to push this across the country. So I showed you the civic engagement, military, scouting. So we kind of had a big goal now, a big problem. How do we get out of state with volunteers? Well, with some of our teacher partners in other states, we challenged them to introduce legislation, and that's exactly what happened in Oklahoma. So we established the freedom flag as Virginia's flag of remembrance. And coincidentally, on my birthday gift this year was that Oklahoma adopted the freedom flag as its state symbol of remembrance. They understand terrorism, if you recall the Murrah building. And then Delaware adopted the freedom flag. So we're on our way. That's 3 states. On the way here, we talked to a partner in Minnesota that's working on legislation there. So I'll get to kind of the point, which is this thing has taken on a life of its own. Each year, the media picks up that the current generation of students and even college students are born after 9/11, and they struggle to understand what it means. It's still used over and over in our vernacular. 9/11 is referred to all the time. So when I saw this article pop up and this picture pop up in January, in the city of Park Hills, Missouri. The city of Park Hills, Missouri adopted the freedom flag and the POW MIA as their city symbols of remembrance. And they're going to fly the freedom flag in Park Hills, Missouri every year on 9/11. I said, you know, we're doing well in Virginia, but we have not had a city adopt a freedom flag like this. We need to kind of come back to home base here. And so that idea kind of bounced around in my head. This is their resolution. I can get you a copy of it. And when we got invited to the Peanut Fest, it all hit home. You know, Richard was so excited to come back to Suffolk and be part of the Peanut Fest. This is our flag, thanks to Tiny and all the volunteers' efforts. Our flag on display, our steel on display, supporting Tunnel to Towers. And one thing led to another, and here we are. I thought, you know, if there's going to be a city in Virginia that's going to adopt the freedom flag first, or at least take a step forward and make a big deal, it should be where Richard's from. It should be the city of Suffolk. So it's Suffolk history, really. You've got an incredible citizen that grew up here and has gone to Richmond to start a business and create this flag that's now been flown in all 50 states. It's the only 9/11 flag of remembrance anywhere in the country. It's now been adopted in 2 other states. And we're on our way to the national symbol. So it's Virginia and U.S. history as well. And I'm here to tell you about it, if you haven't heard of it, and to make a big deal about Richard. Richard's kind of the heart and soul of our organization. I get to go do the speaking, and I love doing this. Frankly, I love telling folks about what we've done and where we're headed. Designed by a Suffolkian, Richard Melito, adopted in 2018 as our Virginia flag of remembrance, flown in all 50 states, now adopted in Oklahoma and Delaware, and a teaching tool, very simple teaching tool for the next generation of Americans, which numbers over 80 million kids born since 9/11, if you can believe that. So I have 4 teenagers, so I'm kind of in the middle of all this, trying to raise part of this 80 million. And I'd like to encourage the city to adopt the freedom flag as its official flag of remembrance and be the first city in Virginia to do so. I think Richard deserves your recognition. We're sort of down here on a secret mission, so don't tell anybody in his circle. He doesn't know we're here, but he would be thrilled if you want to invite him back next year before 9/11. And if you want to display the freedom flag every 9/11 to keep the promise to never forget. So that is the presentation. I appreciate your time. I know we might have a few minutes for question and answers. I've got a whole litany of more slides if you want to see more pictures or hear more about the story, but I appreciate your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Yep.
I think Councilman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I was excited when Tiny called me about this. The Melito family, as we call it down here, not Melito, grew up on over on South Main Street, and South Saratoga Street was where the little restaurant was. Some people might remember it. I don't know if everyone even knew about that, but his family was there for years, and he produced the most famous hot dog in the area, and he took it to Richmond, and it's now the most popular hot dog, I think, in Richmond. But the family was here. They were a great family. I grew up with many of them. I knew Mrs. Melito and all, and I just thought this would be a great way to certainly remember 9/11 and what happened then. I remember where I was on 9/11. I was sitting on the airstrip at Norfolk International heading to Chicago, and we were out on the runway about to take off, and all of a sudden the plane cut its engines. We turned around and went inside. None of us knew the reason for it. As we went inside, we saw the screens showing it to us. It was just a horrible, horrible day to see that happen. As you said, the first plane, you said, gosh, something went wrong. But then when the second, you knew that it was an attack and there was something going on. And then as it folded out everything else. So I certainly will support this in any way I can, and I certainly would like to honor Richard for designing the flag and being a Suffolkian and doing that we can honor him too in some special way, and maybe we can slip him down here in a secret way and let them, and give them something on that. But I certainly would support it, and I thank you very much for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Councilman Fawcett?
Thank you for coming out and giving the presentation. I got to tell you, it's very impressive just to see how he kind of come to the concept of putting that flag together. I mean, it's a powerful thing, and it goes to show you what the mind can do if you really put yourself to it. You know, I think it's a great honor. I think it's something that this country truly, like some of the other disasters we've had, should never forget what happened. I mean, I happened to be the fire chief at the time over in Norfolk Naval Station, and I was in the federal court building on behalf of the government on a federal case. And things kind of unwound like within minutes after this happened. Judges went out of the room. You know, I bailed out of the place because they said something was disastrous going on. My pager was going off and everything, and my day just went in the tank after that, because we have folks along with myself that are at that time attached to a disaster preparedness team through our Hampton Roads region. So there was a lot of things gearing up. We had people going to the Pentagon. We had people going down to New York. It got chaotic. But if we ever have an opportunity, and I don't know where we position ourselves as a city, but I would certainly support the having that flag here in our city as a part of a tribute to Richard for his design, but specifically for the 9/11 itself, the disaster itself. So I would fully support it if we get to a point where we can get a resolution and get it on the table. I'd certainly be in support of it, but thank you for coming down and giving us your time.
Thank you.
I mean, at this time, thank you very much for your presentation. Based on the comments and everything that I've heard, I think it would be appropriate at this time if someone would like to offer a motion to prepare a certificate of recognition and formally recognize the freedom flag as a symbol of remembrance of 9/11, as well as recognizing Mr. Melito's contribution. So that would be my suggestion at this, Councilman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I will do exactly what you just repeated. You said, and I
All right,
appreciate that very
okay,
much.
we have a motion on the floor. Councilman Johnson.
And I would like to recommend that we go forward with being the first city in the state. So if we could go ahead and move forward with this as quickly as possible. It is a member of our city, originally from our city, and I think it's very apt that we should do this.
Okay,
So I would second, yes.
consider that a second. Further discussion of the motion. Councilman Fawcett.
No, Mayor, I'm good. I'll move forward with it.
Do we have any other further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Council members, please vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that concludes our work session. We actually have no need for a closed session this evening, so therefore there will be no motion to that effect. So with that being said, this meeting is hereby adjourned, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m.